It's in the picture on the wall. It's in the frame. It's in our differences that make us all the same. It's in the space between the letters of your name. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. You don't have to go far to find it, 'cause it is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. You don't have to go far to find it. No. It's in the faces of the people that you meet. It's the joy in you, the joy in me. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. You don't have to go far to find it, 'cause it is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. You don't have to go far to find it. No.
So our topic today is accepting what is. And we're talking about singing, and and one thing you don't want to ever hear me do is sing, especially with a microphone on. But I was reminded of a story of a friend who, when we all got together to tell about what was going on during the week, she said, "I got a speeding ticket this week." I said, "A speeding ticket? Of all people, you would get a speeding ticket. Why would you get a speeding ticket?" She says, "Well, I have to tell you, this song came on the radio." And that was all there was. And I started singing and belting it out. And actually, before I turned the radio on, I'd had a hairbrush in the car, and I was brushing my hair. So I picked up that hairbrush, and I am going at it. And then there's lights flashing behind me. And she was singing her heart out. And the cop, she pulls over. The cop walks up to her and says, "You know you were speeding?" She said, "I had my eyes closed. And I was singing." And he said, "Don't say any more." And he wrote her a ticket, but when she got to the group, she said, "I just have to tell you, I don't like getting the ticket, but I had fun, and it is what it is." That's it. Life is what it is. So, oh look, it switches up on me. How sweet. Oh, there we go. Accepting what is. That is our title. Not always easy, depending on what's going on in your life, and you think that can be easy and shifting things around. Without realizing it, we are always at choice for different things that are going on in our life and how we're going to handle it in the moment. My friend decided to just accept what it was, because she certainly couldn't go backwards. She just knows she'll drive with her eyes open next time. See the cops coming. We have those moments in choice where we're making conscious choice. We also have that unconscious stuff that's going on all the time. And there's choices being made there as well, behind the scenes. But if we're working with accepting what is, there are two things we want to look at when we're making a choice about that. We can accept what is happening right in front of us in our human experience, whatever we're engaged in the moment, or we can accept what the spiritual truth is underneath the experience that's happening. And both are important. When we're consciously accepting what our human experience is that we're engaged in, we have the opportunity to see ourselves and see others through the eyes of love, to try to understand what's happening. It also moves us, when we do that, it moves us out of resistance, because that resisting what's happening can really get us stuck. And of course, if we resist, things kind of keep going. It almost kind of fuels the fire. We remember that what we resist persists, right? So accepting what is in the moment can free us up, and then there's a possibility of moving forward in a new way. The other choice that we have is accepting the spiritual truth about what we're engaged in, which is accepting that thing that underlies all human experience. And that's what we want us to understand in this philosophy, that no matter what's going on, there is a spiritual truth underneath everything that we do. And a lot of times the spiritual truth is actually the opposite of what's happening in the moment. The spiritual truth can be the opposite of what we're viewing on television, in the news. How about that? There's spiritual truth of love. There's spiritual truth of unity that people don't understand. And when it touches their heart, they don't know how to respond to it. When we talk about a world that works for everyone, sometimes what works for one person, they don't want to work for another. So we're all in a place of flux this morning with what's happened around the country, what's happened in Charlotte. Underneath all of that is a spiritual truth, that life is still expanding and wanting to grow, and that love still wants to be seen and felt and be the root of what we are, because that is what we come from. And so when we see the news, and when we see this experience and all these things that are happening right now, the contemporary application of science of mind and of this new thought philosophy is to remember and hold in our heart and in our mind and in our energy that love is still possible. And that projects into that experience no matter where you are on the planet, no matter where it is. Okay? All right. I shifted. So we can accept the spiritual reality of what is happening, and it's a whole different framework. When we accept what is real rather than what is not, we can allow our human condition to actually be freed of fear, of being freed of fear of being stuck in a situation and being stuck in the emotion. We're accepting from a place of neutral space. I like the term neutral space because sometimes it's hard to look at something and want to know how to react or what we should do. But if we allow ourselves to come to a space of neutral, which is really workable for me, and I think workable for others when I work with people in spiritual mind treatment, just come to neutral. And if you can get to that place, then you can see the picture. So if we want to accept what's going on and find a way to understand what's going on, come to neutral first and just breathe and relax. And it allows us not to get trapped in that. It allows us to keep from getting trapped and stuck in an emotion and in a residue of something that's happening. Okay. Went off on that tangent. Spirit came right through and threw me in a whole other place. All right. So, That's good. So, two things we look at, accepting from the human experience and accepting from the spiritual foundation of life. And both of those are important. Okay. So, clear as mud? Yes. Okay, good. We are accepting what is when you go from both of those places. Okay, so let me give you a quote. When we're accepting the human experience, it allows us to see ourselves and others through the eyes of love, as I said earlier. Ernest Holmes says that sympathy and compassion are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and the unified attempt to uncover the divinity in each other. Sympathy is the gentlest of all human virtues, for it is the outpouring of the divine givingness through man. He also goes on to say, we have no understanding of divine compassion unless we ourselves first exercise compassion. And we talked a lot about compassion last week. He goes on, the very judgment by which we judge others becomes self-judgment. It is as if the law of life were giving back to each one of us exactly what we have projected into it, as though everything that goes out from us must again return by the law of action and reaction. Accepting what is can open the space of compassion as we choose to see ourselves from an angle of love and allow the spiritual essence to come forth. That's a mouthful. But what we put out comes back. If we're looking at life and accepting what is and looking at a situation from love and compassion, that's what generates and can come back and ease a situation. Life fills all space and spirit animates every form. But since you are an individual, even the spirit cannot make the gift of life unless you accept it. Life may have given everything to you, but only that which you accept, or you can be still enough to notice and receive, is yours to use. Okay, so how can we get to a point of just accepting things the way they are? And it doesn't matter if you're embattled in the heat of the moment, or even if just life isn't what you want it to be. How do we do that? So let me give you two examples, or two frameworks, actually. The term accepting what is actually reminds me of The Work by Katie Byron, or Byron Katie, actually. Accepting what is, loving what is. It reminds us that we cannot solve a problem from the level of consciousness and information that created the story, or even the emotion around the story that can be so strong. That's why we have to move or shift one direction or another, forward, backwards, or even back away from the problem far enough to get a better picture of and view of the information that we might not have known. That's important. The work, as it's titled, is based on looking at our picture of an event and the resulting emotions, asking a series of questions that shows us whether something we believe about that event is really true, or is it just true in our mind? Did we make it true? So the work really takes you around the issue. She says that the only time we suffer is when we believe a thought that argues with what is. The only time we suffer is when our mind and thought argues with what is. When the mind is clear about the situation, what is may actually be what you want. There's a twist, huh? Yeah. Our minds are active and mulling all day long about wanting reality to be different for things we cannot change. And that creates stress and sometimes creates depression. The stress is created by fighting with what is. When we stop the fight, we stop the resistance with what is and all that information, and it allows us to move to a different place. I'm talking about that. I can see where somebody would say, well, if I just accept what is all the time, well, I'll just become weak. I'll become passive. I'll lose control of my life. I just can't accept everything. Well, her question is, can you really know that's true? If you think that accepting what is puts you in a place of being passive, can you really know that's true? You can argue and fight and be in the resistance, and you can yell, I wish I hadn't lost my job. Or you can say, okay, I lost my job. Now what? What intelligent solutions can I find right now? Where is Spirit guiding me? Melody Beattie is an author of a number of books on codependency. I started reading her back in the 80s. I love some of the stuff that she's come up with. She brought the concept and word of codependency out into the room of what people were going through. And she was one of the first people I actually started to read when I wanted to start making the change about things. I was raised in a family of codependents and enabling and stuff, so it was a good thing for me to be looking at the time. When I wanted to make a shift in my life, I didn't know how to do that. In her book, Codependent No More, she describes the importance of acknowledging where you are in the present moment. Even the room you're in. Start simple. You don't like your life, you don't like how you're treated, you don't like even the aha realization that maybe you haven't been treating people so well, and all those darn things that are going on in your life, and even the darn curtains. Just recognize where you are right in the moment. And you start simple. I accept where I am right now. I am grateful for all that got me here. I accept what is. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful that I have electricity. I'm grateful for the curtains on the windows. Starting simple. And actually, when you say you're grateful in a moment like that for where you are and what got you there, you're actually acknowledging gratitude for waking up in that moment and gratitude for the awareness that it's time to shift and change. And in that moment of realization, says Melody, is when it is the most important to accept where you are and what is. Because when you can do that, you're ready to give up the fight. You're ready to give up that stress. I didn't know Science of Mind back at that time. The first edition of this book was in the mid-'80s. But what I know now, and what I remind you, is that when we're in that fight, we are putting out an invitation to the universe to fight back. Right? Because what we put out comes back to us. So if we can get to that place of just neutral and of willing to accept what is in that moment, then we're not in the fight anymore. And it is that law of attraction and that law of cause and effect. The process of accepting what is begins by just being still. It's the neutral. I say it a lot. And that's actually being kind to yourself, not forcing you to jump too far one way or the other that's not going to feel comfortable. And it's a whole lot easier on your body and the whole effect of your body when you're really trying to make a change about something, or making that statement of accepting what is in a moment when it's something you really don't like. Right? But it's important to go there. So here's a picture for you. Picture being on a merry-go-round. And you're on that merry-go-round, and it is going around and around and around and around. And that's kind of your life. And you're in that emotion and that energy. And your life is just gone and gone. Who wants to ride the big horse? There's the big rabbit. There's the big sleigh on that big giant merry-go-round. And you're going and you're going. And after a while, you're thinking, I don't think I like this anymore. I don't want to be angry anymore. I'm tired of fighting my life and everybody in it. And I want to slow down. And I want to get off this merry-go-round that is just taking me, and I've lost control of it. And that's at the point where all of a sudden you say, I'm ready. I'm ready to slow down. I am ready to stop the fight. I'm ready to accept what is right now, right here. And then the merry-go-round slows and it stops. And you get to that place where you can finally breathe and even lift your shoulders. And then you can make that claim that the time has come to really accept. And what I said earlier was that life has so much to give us, and Spirit is continuously reaching out to us to give us what it wants us to have, because it's there for us. And the faster we go on that merry-go-round, that golden ring is there, but every time you go by, you can't get it because you're moving too fast. And that golden ring is what Spirit is giving to you. So once you slow down, once you begin to accept what is right here, right now, you're still in that moment. You are still. And then Spirit gets to bestow on you everything that it wants you to have, the good and the guidance. And then you can say thank you for everything that brought me to this moment. And I'm ready to take that shift. And I'm ready to step forward into something else. And that's when the information comes. You find yourself in that right place at the right time with the right people and the right information to help you take those steps and to move forward. And it all begins by accepting what is in the moment. So breathe. Dr. Roger Teal of the CSL My High Church in Denver, in his message this week, he said, forgiveness is giving up the illusion that our bitterness and resentment is doing anything at all to the other person. It's giving up victim consciousness. It's a decision of the heart. And when we can do that, that merry-go-round slows down and comes to a stop. Abraham says, feel appreciation for what is and eagerness for what is coming. So accepting what is and accepting our place in the moment and in life and in the universe, and accepting that we know the spiritual truth of what is what's important. That's the message of this. So this week, if you notice yourself in the fight, if you notice yourself in the resistance, if you notice yourself trying to fight something that you can't change in the moment, And even trying to judge someone else, just come to neutral. Just take a breath and stop. And then say to yourself, I accept what is right now. I accept what is. Now show me the highest of what's next for me. And then you can take that in. So let's just take that into prayer. And I invite our practitioners to come forward. And remember, our practitioners are available for you after the service every Sunday, and today it'll be after the town hall meeting, and they're in the library for you. And know that it's always important, it is good, to accept your own humanity and the humanity of others with compassion. I accept the spiritual truth with conviction and faith. I accept what is and move into the greater yet to be that is waiting. And so I know right here, right now, that there is only one life. That life is God, and that life is good and very good, and that life is my life now. I know that all that has been made is a part of my life. And I stand still. And I let it come forward. I let it come into my awareness. For I know that everything that God has made, that has been made from that essence of life, that spiritual source of creation, takes care of itself. Because all of it is God. And it is right here for me, and it is right here for every individual. When I stop and take a breath and recognize that everything is okay in this moment. Everything is in divine order. And as I make the choice to step forward and learn more about my life and learn more about the spiritual expression of my life and what's underlying it, Spirit's right there. All the help and support of the universe. Every single individual has 3 guides that stay with them throughout their lifetime. And I know that given the love to these angels and these guides, that my life moves in ease. And I know that for each individual here. So accepting what is in the moment in this world right now can be a practice. But the practice builds strength. And the practice is the expression of life in that forward movement. So I know that is good and very good. So I stay open to that. I stay open to what Spirit wants to express in, as, and through me and every individual here. And I know that to stay open is to allow myself to move to that higher place of good and to allow that highest expression of good to be my life. And that is good and very good. And so I give great blessings to this knowing. And know that each individual here is blessed. And we send blessings to Charlotte and everyone there. We send blessings to the leaders of this country to be guided for the highest good and the highest growth of all that is, that lifts us in this world. And so we bless every leader, every minister, every rabbi, every teacher of faith, knowing that this is the time where it is needed to come forward. And it is doing so more than we realize. Love is the answer. Love is the key that opens the door. And love is the way that lights the path and makes the crooked path straight. And so I know this to be true. And I release this into that law of mechanics that makes it so, knowing that it is divine and the power of the Word sets it right. And so claiming this together, knowing that all life is good, together we say, and so it is.